Here's a recap of my top language learning tips as someone who's building a new language app and has done a ton of research along the way. The tips that I'm about to tell you apply to intermediate level learners, meaning that you already know the language to a certain extent, but you're struggling to become fluent in it. Okay, tip number one is that the words and phrases that you read or hear in a foreign language don't directly become part of the vocabulary that you can use. To feed them into your brain so that you can recall them and use them as part of your own speech, you have to actually practice speaking them and writing them. The takeaway is put in the effort and use the language consistently. Don't just absorb it passively through books or movies. Okay, the next point is very often you don't get feedback on the small mistakes that you make because they don't really inhibit your ability to communicate. But because you don't get feedback, you don't realize that you're making mistakes, and then they become habits that are difficult to get rid of in the long term. Tip number two is to actively seek feedback so that these kind of fossilized errors don't form in the first place, or if they do, you're able to identify them and work on fixing them. The next tip deals with the fact that once you've learned all the basic words and phrases that you need to effectively be able to communicate in that foreign language, you're more likely to shift your focus to other things like more complex aspects of grammar, for example, over expanding your vocabulary range beyond what you absolutely need. And this way, you'll likely become fluent, but you won't be very articulate. To increase your level of speech, you have to realize that you do have to consciously put in effort to expand your vocabulary range. And I'm currently building a feature for Fluency app that helps you do just that. The last tip, and this is especially likely to happen if you've learned the language initially from textbooks, is the fact that your speech might not sound natural or native. It might sound very bookish or formal. There are elements like contractions and slang that are part of the spoken form of most languages, and they're not included in the written form. And to pick up on these and learn these, the best way is to immerse yourself into authentic native verbal content of the language. Over time, you'll be able to identify these elements, and then when you practice speaking them, repeating them over and over, you're finally able to use them as part of your own speech. And with these 4 tips implemented, you should be 4 huge steps forward in your journey towards becoming fluent in that foreign language. If you want to practice speaking a language that you're learning, but you don't have anyone to talk to, or you're too scared to talk to an actual person, check out my new language app, Fluency. In the app, you can have conversations with an AI bot that talks to you just like a person would in the language that you're learning. Meanwhile, the app also gives you real-time feedback on everything that you say so that you can identify your mistakes and learn from them instantly. It's free right now, so go check it out at the link in my bio.